Owen, and I work for Equality Utah now, but before that I worked for Equality Maryland, so I'm here to talk to you about a program that invests and builds capacity for transgender leaders in your communities. So our landscape has changed very drastically, really quickly, right? Marriage totally exiting stage left, which is awesome and we should celebrate. And, yes, and transgender, and because of the marriage stuff, victories and all that stuff, we've really humanized LGBT stories and issues, and there's really been a lot of LGBT heroes and leaders in our movement, but what we're seeing is there's just not enough trans folks in those positions. So there are a lot of attacks against transgender people. A lot of you already know, bathrooms and locker rooms, right? But there's also really devastating bills that are coming out just against trans folks. So we're starting to see more of that. So we know that the movement is moving towards trans folks. Good news is we've got some really great trans folks of color in media, Janet Mock and Laverne Cox, rocking it out and starting to change hearts and minds for us. And we have some other really awesome leaders, all of which are saying right now there are not enough trans people in leadership positions to change hearts and minds. Yeah, and to be perfectly frank and honest with you all, only 12% of our staff and boards of the members of the Equality Federation are trans identified, and that is not enough, especially if you consider what's about to happen.
Yes.
Awesome. So the solution that we came up with in Maryland was to do a Transgender Leadership Academy. In Maryland, we're about to do a statewide non-discrimination law that could not happen. It could not move forth anymore without there being led by transgender people from every level of that campaign. So, our advisory board of trans folks, Gender Empowerment Maryland, I call GEM, decided to do a community check-in survey and listen to the community, the trans folks in our communities, and figure out what we needed and what they wanted and how they wanted to see it done. So we decided, after hearing the feedback of, why won't you just let us lead over and over and over again, we thought, well, yeah, maybe we should do that. So we we looked at national models and decided to do a leadership development program. We used the Transgender Leadership Academy model from Los Angeles, run by the task force. And we asked for help from national funders and national leaders and community leaders to really make this happen. And the thing that I'm most proud of is all of our GEM members became the driving force behind our TLA. All of them had roles and responsibilities, and including Angie, who had been unemployed for 2 years, who became our outreach coordinator for TLA and got 78 people to apply. So what our program looked like, it was 1 weekend a month for 6 months. It was absolutely free to attendees. I repeat, free to attendees. We had 25 spots. We used the application process to figure out who those folks were that were going to be in the room. We had all of our facilitators stay throughout the process with folks, and they were all transgender or gender nonconforming identified. And we had demographic goals that we needed to hit, so the leaders that we were growing in our movement looked like our actual communities we were serving. So things we talked about, power and privilege. Racial justice was a huge component in our TLA. We did story training so folks could tell their stories and change hearts and minds. We taught folks how to write resumes so they could apply for jobs and get leadership positions. We also talked about direct service outreach and how to do that safely, and also talked about how to plan and run a field campaign and all the tactics and strategies therein. So some awesome things. 24 folks graduated. It was super diverse. A third of the population was gender nonconforming, a third of the population was trans men, and a third was trans women. Half of them were people of color. All of them participated in our upcoming campaign, and all of them joined or got job offers or promotions at work. Some more success. We did a Summer of Supporter campaign after our loss. They ran it. I only gave them 5 hours of my week of work to have them do it. They smashed their goals. And finally, Maryland passed the Fairness for All Marylanders Act this past year. So, interested in doing it, follow these guidelines, and 12% is not enough. Invest, invest, invest.